Hello everyone, welcome to Highways and Hilltops with Charlie and Jodi. This week we're going to cover episode 12, the road to and through Arches and Canyonlands National Park.
Yeah, today it's travel day. So we are waking up in Reno Boomtown KOA. You know that if you were with us on episode 11. And we stayed one night there. It is a new, nice KOA. So if you're in the Reno area, we recommend staying there. That was a good one. And today we are on the road to Salt Lake City, Utah for the night before we head on into Moab for a day in Arches and Canyonlands National Park. So we hit Interstate 80 headed toward Salt Lake City, and basically the drive is mostly a mountainous desert type of landscape. Very rocky terrain. It is pretty in its own way, but quite a bit different from the places that we've been for the last couple of weeks. About 45 minutes into our drive, we came upon Fernley, Nevada, and in Fernley, there is a salt plain known as the Fernley Sink. And I looked up a little bit of information about it, and what this is it's an irrigation system that was constructed to drain excess water and mineral salt from farmlands. Some of these irrigation systems in the area date back to the Newlands Reclamation Act of 1904 and were built by the Civilian Conservation Corps, and some of them are actually still in use today.
You know, we could see this real plain from I-80. You can also go out on Google Maps and look it up and get a bird's eye view of it.
Yeah, it looks really cool on Google Maps because you can see that mountainous terrain that I was talking about, and the direction we were driving, that was on the left side, and then the Fernley Sink was over on the right side of I-80, and it's pretty crazy because you just have the mountains over there, and then you just have this huge salt plain over to the right side.
When you first see it, it's kind of strange. It's like you can see mountains and they're green, and then you can see this salt, and it's kind of like, why is there salt in this spot and not in the mountains? But it makes sense, you know, when you talk about the way they draw the water in there and the way they do that. So
Yeah, for sure. I had to go look it up because I was like, this is weird. Like, why is it here? I thought something strange was going on out there, but come to find out, they've actually directed water down that way for irrigation purposes. So it makes perfect sense. A couple other things we saw along the way were a interesting rock formation on the side of I-80 in Carlin, Nevada. And then we saw snow-capped mountains in the distance over in Elko. So that was fun because we had been out of snow-capped mountains for a little while, mainly since we left Washington, I guess.
yeah, the drive's getting prettier again. We're starting to see our mountains again and things like that. So we're starting to get excited.
So about 5 hours from Fernley, we started seeing some more big white areas of land up ahead on I-80. And at first, it just looks like a ton of snow covering the ground, but you know that can't be correct because it's like 98 degrees outside. As we approach a little bit further, we realize we're in West Wendover, Nevada, and this is right on the edge, the western edge to be exact, of the Great Salt Lake Desert. Now, I don't know any of that whenever we're driving up on it. I found this out later that it actually is called the Great Salt Lake Desert. But we were headed to Salt Lake City, so I did figure we would see some kind of salt plains, but these were more than I could have thought or imagined.
Yeah, this is an ocean of salt. This is a huge salt flat.
Yeah, it is. This is right on the Nevada-Utah border, and the ground is literally white. It's crazy, guys. It runs right up to the highway on both sides and almost, I mean, as far as you can see to the base of a mountain out there.
Yeah, this is really neat to see. It's not the mountains. So this is a drive for me. This is what I remember as the drive, but it covers about 2,500 square miles.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's big.
huge. That is huge. The history of it is that this used to be a really, really giant lake, and actually the Great Salt Lake was part of this bigger lake system. At least that's what I read about it. It was called Lake Bonneville, and through a series of catastrophic events like a dam failure and some drought conditions, it has just dried up over time. So the lake is much smaller now, which is the Great Salt Lake, still quite big in terms of, lakes, but this salt plain has been left there. So it's pretty crazy to see. This Great Salt Lake Desert stretches for hundreds of miles in the form of a salt plain along that I-80 corridor. Also, in some parts, it's covered with a shallow water. And I read that the actual granules of the salt are very, very sharp.
You remember when we were snow skiing and we were wondering about the goggles, whether we
Hmm.
needed them or not, and you get out there on the snow and it just blinds you?
Yeah.
This place is exactly like that. The same white as the snow, and it's just so much of it, and it just really blinds you. So
Yeah, I remember that. I remember trying to either work on my phone or take pictures or something, and I would look down for a little while and then look back up without my sunglasses on, and my eyes were crazy.
yeah, it's on a sunny day, it's almost like it shimmers.
Yeah, it's really something. So make sure that you have sunglasses if you drive through this great Salt Lake desert. Remember, the water even kind of looked like a mirage. Like from a distance, we weren't sure if that was really even water or not.
Fun to see from a distance. I don't know that I would walk on it or hike on it. I don't know if there is any hiking here or not, but something to see. Very, very bright, and yeah, a little precaution with some sunglasses will go a long ways.
Yeah, for sure.
So we finally arrive at the Salt Lake City KOA. This is one of the holiday KOAs. Really nice. It's a big KOA, lots of spots, very flat and nice concrete pads. If you're the guy setting up all the time, it's fun to have one of those every once in a while.
Yeah.
They're clean, they're easy to hook up to. It's really, really nice. They had a big pool, they had some hot tubs, they had some activity areas. One of the things I really liked about this KOA is right next door there was a RV car wash, which is really hard to find sometimes on trips. I mean, most of the car washes are too short and too narrow and all that to do you any good, but this one had a really nice high car wash. So at this point in the trip, we're really dirty. So to stop and clean up the van at this part of the trip was really nice. Another thing they had was nice laundromats. So we got caught up on our laundry. And if you remember, we arrived late and the
Yeah.
people were so nice to us and helped us out and, act like, wasn't any big deal for us to arrive late.
Hmm.
And also we were pretty close to some good eating places. And I think we ate at a Cracker Barrel, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think we were ready to eat at a Cracker Barrel by this point in the trip. Yeah, I think you're right. We found a Cracker Barrel about 15 miles or so from the KOA, and man, we had collected a lot of bugs when we came through that Salt Lake area.
I'm trying to remember how many days into the trip here. I'm just guessing 17, 18, 19, maybe 20 days. I don't know, but this van needed a major cleaning, so it was really nice to have that rather than coming home and doing it by hand or finding a place to do it by hand. So I think these RV car washes, I hope catch on someday because they're really nice.
Yeah, for sure.
So next day we packed up and headed to Moab. About a 3-hour drive from Salt Lake City. It's funny when you're planning these long trips, especially when we're 20 something days is what we normally plan in the summertime. We ended up here in Arches on July 7th. So that's not the best time to be at Arches. There could be better planning here, and it was very, very hot. The nice thing is we still drove through the park. We seen lots of stuff. We went on some small hikes, and we kind of limited what we were going to do here because it was so hot. But again, when you're planning a trip this long, you're not going to be able to get everything in the perfect time. And I don't think that bothers us at all. I think we still had a great time. But this is one of those areas that we talk about, being careful with the heat, the water, all the same stuff as we talked about in previous episodes, right? So Arches is wonderful.
So our first stop was Arches National Park. The National Park Service calls it a Red Rock Wonderland, and if you ever go to Arches, you're going to know why. There are over 2,000 natural stone arches in this park, hundreds of soaring pinnacles, massive rock fins, and giant balanced rocks. It's pretty crazy, actually. The red rocks are red due to the existence of iron oxide or hematite. Over time, the iron in the rocks oxidizes or rusts, like we know it, as they are continually exposed to air and water, and it gives the sandstone formations that red, brown, orange color. So sometimes they're striped, sometimes it's more like a gradient. It's just pretty crazy how the iron oxide turns that sandstone into a sweeping array of color as you look out through there. One thing that really caught me off guard on the drive to Arches, there's a short, I don't know, I wouldn't really call it a mountain range, but a short set of kind of mountains or hills or rock formations, and they have a blue hue to them. And so that really caught my attention. I was like, well, this is weird. Amongst all this red rock, here's this blue and kind of a green color. And so I had to go look that up because it made me curious. And here's what I found out. The blue rocks and sometimes green rocks can be found in areas where there's a high presence of volcanic ash. So at some point, volcanic ash has settled there. And what happens is it keeps that iron oxide from oxidizing. So therefore, you get that blue color instead of that red color. I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah, for me, Arches is one of those places that's right out of a Western. So if you're a Western fan, you'll love this place.
Yeah, for sure, that is exactly what it looks like. You can't drive through Arches and not see a Western backdrop through that park.
Absolutely.
So we made a quick stop at the visitor center and they have some really cool gifts in there. I think that's where I bought that crossbody water bottle holder for our daughter-in-law. And she had sent me a picture just a month or so ago when they started baseball season and was like, this thing is really great for the ballpark because it frees up her hands to be able to carry her water on her side and then also run around and gather up our twin grandboys. So
Yeah, there's always lots of stuff to buy at these visitor centers. I like the history in there too. So there's always things on the wall, how they got created, different pictures in the park, and different things they've done. So I always like to stop and visit those
yeah, if there's one thing that we don't probably spend enough time in, it's the visitor centers.
for sure.
It seems like we're always in a hurry to try to get out into the landscape and see all the things. And I think we always think we want to stop at the visitor center. And then when we get in there, we're like, oh, we just have that weird run and go thing about us.
You know, this spontaneous vacation thing. And then you're right. We have kind of this drive to see them all, and we want to see all the national parks. We're ready to go. I think we're kind of learning, though, that we could spend a little bit more time in some places and have a little bit more fun and see everything. But you know what? That's why there's always a second trip. So we're enjoying ourselves now. I guarantee we'll be back.
For sure. And if you remember right, we're a good 20 days into this thing. So our flagship trip was Glacier. And then I would say the second biggest that we planned to spend time in was Olympic. So really, this was kind of that planning of what else can we do on the way home instead of just driving and staying the night and driving and staying the night.
Well, you want to make every day as fun as it can be, right? You don't want to miss anything. And so there's just this natural drive. Let's not miss anything. And so we stop at everything, and it does make it more fun. And we talk about the drive sometimes. We talked earlier about the 5 or 6 hour drive from Salt Lake and different things like that. So it's always fun to see them. You're here, you may not be back for a while, so you might as well see everything you can.
I totally agree with that. 100%. Okay, so once you get past the visitor center, the road actually starts right in behind the visitor center and it kind of winds around and then it starts up. And it doesn't go a huge amount of elevation, but you're kind of driving in and winding through these giant rock structures right off the bat. Like you don't have to wait to get in there and see them. Basically, they tower over the top of the visitor center.
Yeah, and what I like about these is, we talk about this a lot. So not everybody wants to hike, and not everybody wants to hike in the heat for sure. I don't feel like we missed anything. These drives and these views, it was still just as pretty. And if you are someone who can't hike or has trouble getting out, I don't think anybody's going to be disappointed in Arches. You can drive right down the road, pull off, and see everything you want to see. This is another one of those places. It's a great place to have a spotting scope or some good binoculars because you can see for miles.
Yeah, that's true. This park is totally accessible because of the ability to drive right up on some of the overlooks and be able to see, exactly what you're wanting to look at. Of course, we didn't hike. It was near 100 degrees this day, and it was July, what did we say, 7th in Utah. We knew going in that this was probably going to be mostly a driving trip and then get out on a couple of overlooks and see what we could see. But it was pretty hot and it didn't take long once you got out of the van to get overheated.
I don't think there was a moment in this day that we weren't entertained. So the whole day was fun. There was a lot to see, and we spent pretty much a day in here.
Yeah, we were able to make a day of it for sure. It was really cool winding down that road and seeing all the different rock formations. But you know what I found really cool was when I started doing the research for this podcast and went and actually looked them up, because this was such a whirlwind trip to Arches that we were just kind of looking at rocks. We didn't really take a lot of time to read any of the placards that were out to understand what exactly we were looking at. But you're going to get a sneak peek. And also, if you decide to go to Arches, I will tell you in advance that it's so much more fun if you know what the rock formation actually is that you're looking at. We're going to talk about a few of the things that you're going to see out there in order, and that'll make it easy for you to follow along. Plus, if you get to take a trip to Arches, you'll be able to go in and be like, oh, I remember Charlie and Jodi talking about that rock. So we're going to talk about some of the rock formations that we took pictures of and that we're sharing here. Now, I will tell you, in no way did we see every bit of Arches. We didn't even make it all the way down that road. We made it quite a ways, and then we turned back and came back out to the visitor center. I don't think it's a through road. I think you have to turn around and come back, but we didn't go all the way to the end.
Yeah, if you tried to catalog all of these formations and have a picture of every one of them, you could be here a long time. We got the ones that we felt like really stood out, the ones that are the big ones, and we cataloged those for you.
Yeah, we did. All the ones that you can see from the road or from the small overlooks and pullouts, we were able to photograph those. I did get a picture of Delicate Arch, but the ones that I'm sharing are the ones from my iPhone, and they're a little ways away, so you'll be able to see that. I think I have a much better picture that I took with my 400mm lens. If I have time, I'll go dig that one out, but I can't make any promises about that one.
So the first one we seen was a formation called the Penguins. This is really neat. It's kind of a pedestal type rock. These things stand side by side, and they're like 130-foot towers.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like 3 penguins squished together. And the funny thing is, if you don't know that it's called Penguin Rock, you're just not going to see that.
Exactly.
So take a look, and that way, if you get to go to Arches, when you come up on Penguin Rock, you'll know exactly what you're looking at. It also stands on top of another rock platform.
Yeah, you can tell everybody in the car that you know what that is. It's Penguin Rock, and you won't miss it. When you see it, you'll see 3 of these pedestals side by side, and you'll know exactly what it is.
Yeah. The next picture that you're going to see out there is called the Organ Rock. And I had to look up some history on this one. It says that it's like, the musical organ, like people play in church. I got to tell y'all, I don't see it. Do you see it?
I don't see it, but it is really pretty. It looks like something out of a Western to me. It's like 4,735 feet in elevation, so it's really tall. You can't miss these rocks. There's something to see, but it is really pretty. It looks like 2 structures standing straight into the air, so it's kind of hard to miss.
Yeah, I think these are the ones they call fins. So these are like giant 4,000-foot fins that just jet up out of the ground, and it's pretty amazing to see.
Again, this is the one where I first realized, man, if I had a spotting scope on these, it would be great, or some good binoculars, because there's just so much to see as far as the colors and the way that they erode and different things like that. Really pretty.
Yeah, it is really cool. The next thing that we came upon was the Balanced Rock. This one's really easy to see, guys. It's literally a big old boulder up on top of a pedestal.
When you see this one, the first thing I think of is the Roadrunner.
Oh, yeah.
So it is literally a column sticking up in there, and it narrows, and there's this big round rock sitting right on top of it.
Yeah, it does. It looks like one of those boulders that he used to push off the top down onto the coyote and try to smash him.
And the rock on top, they say, weighs 3,600 tons.
Yeah, I wonder how they measure that. I don't know. If anybody knows, you should drop us a line about how they would measure a rock balanced on top of a pedestal. Because I'm curious. I want to know.
They do say eventually it will erode. The pedestal will erode enough to let this boulder come to the ground. But for right now, and I guess for some time, who knows when that's going to be, but it's really pretty to see for now.
Yeah, so I'm glad that we got to see it and photograph it. Okay, the next thing that you're going to see is a loop down the Windows Trail. And this is a loop off of the main park road. And you just drive down through there and you come to this parking spot. And as you're winding your way down through there, you're driving through these massive rock structures that have built-in arches that they call windows. And when you get down to the parking area, you can park there. I think that there were maybe even some bathrooms in that particular area. A lot of people were here in this area, and they were climbing up all over those rocks. It was a little hot for us, so we didn't get out there and walk up to climb up on the rocks. But you can see what they look like. It was just a giant wall of rock, and then there's arches ever so often. It was really cool to see. And down this loop, you're going to see the south window, the north window, bicep arch, and seagull arch, all in that one loop area. So again, it would be very easy for you to drive this and see most of it from your vehicle without even having to get out. We did get out here just to kind of walk around. There's a really nice sidewalk and flat area through there, but again, we didn't get out on the trail and go out to the rock structures or anything like that.
Pretty short little hike, though. If you from the parking area, it probably wasn't 200 or 300 yards, something like that. So it was close enough. So Easy hike. The funny thing is you can't miss these. When they call it the windows, it's almost like you know what you're looking for, but there's these big holes completely through the rock that look like windows.
Yeah, it was really kind of a neat thing to see. So definitely, if you go to Arches, you're going to want to go check out that Windows Trail loop. Okay, our next stop would be Delicate Arch, and this one you actually do have to hike out a little ways for, and I decided to volunteer as tribute. And I walked out to the end of this boardwalk, and then at the end of the boardwalk, there's like a deck area. Now, after that, you can continue on and walk on out closer to the arch. I chose not to do that. I tried to just take a picture standing on the deck, so you'll be able to see that. It's just a little kind of a, well, like it's called, a delicate arch just sitting up on this hillside kind of all alone. And then you can see some rock structures behind that. But I took a picture, zoomed in, and then I took a picture like a selfie, and you can see how far it actually was from me, because if you look over my right shoulder, if you'll just look straight above my shoulder, you can see the delicate arch out there on the hill, but it is quite a distance if you want to
Now
hike
that
out there.
yeah, that one's not close like the last one. So the next one you'll see is the Great Wall. There's a video on the website of this one. It's really neat. This is the one that kind of got me excited because this is the one that really looks like a Western to me. There was a scene in Geronimo where the Indians were on top of the big flat rock. So basically it's this really long wall and it's flat on top and there's all kinds of this erosion on the sides and different colors and all this other stuff. But this one looks like it's right out of a Western.
Yeah, for sure. And then all that greenery on the ground, what do you call that? Like a sagey type vegetation?
Yeah, just kind of a desert stuff. I don't know the technical terms, but it does look like it's right out of a Western. So
It does. As you continue on, now that one will be over in the video vault, but back on the photo gallery, the next thing you'll see after Delicate Arch is going to be the Sheep Rock. And if you'll look at the very, very top and kind of look at the outline, you'll see the sheep at the top. It's like the sheep body and the sheep head, and you can see its snout as you work your way down through there. But that's all along that top would be the what looks like a sheep, and that's how it gets its name, Sheep Rock.
the next one you'll see is called the Tower of Babel. It's nearly 5,000 feet tall. It's just a great big straight up and down a cliff, if you will, with a big flat rock on the top of it. Kind of reminds me of the one that I mentioned earlier. Again, it looks like it's right out of a Western. This one has a whole bunch of silt on the bottom of it where it's eroded, and somehow the end of it looks like it's broken off too. But it's really neat to see as well.
It's pretty crazy how there's just a perfect hole in it, and you can see the sky in this picture because we just happened to be at the right angle when I took the picture.
Yeah, it's really neat.
It is neat. All right, so you can check out those pictures and videos of Arches National Park on our website, www.highwaysandhilltops.com. And we have a photo gallery and a video vault for all of our episodes that we've covered so far on the podcast. So make sure that you're visiting our website and checking those out. I'm going to put a link to the Arches National Park website in the show notes. And on the Arches website, that's where you can go to find all the information about park passes and timed entry vehicle reservations that will get you in the park at Arches. Now, if you're new to all this, you can enter the park before 7 a.m. or after 4 p.m. and not even worry about that timed entry reservation. But if you're going to enter during the peak times of the day, you are going to have to get the vehicle reservation. So you can jump out on the Arches website. It'll tell you everything you need to know to purchase that timed entry vehicle reservation and how to get that done. Don't wait till the night before you want to go to the park to try to get that timed entry vehicle reservation, because they do tend to sell out. So if you know you're going and you have a pretty rough idea about the date you're going to be there, those timed entry vehicle reservations are cheap. Just plan it, pay for it, and then try to make your time frame. That's the best advice I can give you. I certainly wouldn't wait till the last minute.
Yeah, and think about it like this. The one thing you're purchasing is the ticket to get in the park. It's an entry in the park. The other thing, of course, is just a vehicle reservation. The only reason they do this is because they don't want to get too many people in the park and nobody have any place to park. So it's really just about staggering the people coming in. That way everybody has a nice place to park and you're not overloading the park as far as too many people in there and they're not enjoying themselves.
It is. And I'm pretty sure that we got into Arches with the My Tribal ID.
I believe that we did.
Okay, so Don't hold us to that for 2025, but we were there in 2024, and I know we said we're just going to try to get in with the tribal ID, even though we had our park pass, because we're experimenting and trying to figure out where we can get in just using the tribal ID. And we were able to get in.
Yeah, that's kind of a fun thing for us. It's nice that they honor the Indian lands, and so this is another one of those places that's tribal, right? They do their best to honor the tribal members.
And we didn't have a timed entry vehicle reservation either.
We
And
didn't.
we just pulled right up, showed our tribal ID, and we were admitted in.
Typically, when they honor one, they honor the other.
Yeah, so basically, we're pretty sure your tribal ID will get you into Arches in 2025 for free without a timed entry vehicle reservation. But we're asking that you double check us on that. So if you're planning a trip to Arches and you want to use your tribal ID to get into the park, just call the ranger station and make sure, because I haven't double checked that. Sometimes it's really hard to find that information out on the website, but you can call the ranger station and they can tell you for sure. So do that. Otherwise, you're going to have to jump on and try to buy a timed entry vehicle reservation anyway. So it would be good information to know if you are a member of a federally recognized tribe.
So we mentioned that Canyonlands was just 10 minutes down the road. So off we go. So we leave Arches, we go over to Canyonlands. About this time, I'm beginning to get pretty tired from these long drives and this big trip. So we decided it might be a good idea to let Weston drive. So anyway, so Weston gets in the front. He's going to drive you through here. And so you can tell everybody what you see.
Yeah, basically, at some point, I think when I got out at Delicate Arch, maybe, that might be when you decided to take a nap. And then when I came back down from the deck, Weston was in the driver's seat. So he actually drove me back out of Arches and over to Canyonlands. It's pretty interesting, the landscape change from Arches to Canyonlands. So when you're driving through Arches, it's like all of these rock structures are just rising up out of the ground all around you. And then you drive 10 minutes down the road and you're in Canyonlands, and it's more like the Grand Canyon, like you're on top of the rock formations. And instead of just being freestanding formations, they're big canyons that are carved by the Colorado River. So it was really beautiful. You can drive about 25 to 35 minutes and make it to the Island in the Sky Visitor Center up the Canyonlands Road. It was late afternoon by this point in time, and we thought we were going to make it up to the visitor center before it closed, and we didn't. We got up there like 10 minutes after the visitor center closed. But Weston did a good job driving me through Canyonlands. It's not too windy. You do gain in elevation quite a bit when you're driving up. And then when you're coming back down, it's a pretty decent grade. But we just kind of drove up through there, saw the sights. I took a few pictures from the van. I'll put those out on the photo gallery for you. And then when we got to the top at the Island in the Sky Visitor Center, I hopped out, and across the road there's this big rock that you can walk out on, and I kind of walked out there. It's a giant overlook of all these different canyons, and I took a big sweeping picture for you, so you can go check that one out. And this is another portion that really does look like the westerns when they're riding their horses down in the bottom of these canyons and the big red rocks are just rising up on each side of them. I would imagine that this would be somewhere that something like that could be filmed for sure. There's definitely a lot more that could be explored at both Arches and Canyonlands if we were there at a time of year when we would want to hike it. Hiking, I believe the views are totally different than they are from the road, at least from the pictures that I see, it looks that way. The weather can be pretty extreme in this area, so as you can imagine, when you're on a really packed rocky terrain and the rain gets heavy, the runoff is pretty severe. So I think you need to keep an eye on the weather if you're going to hike in a place like Arches or Canyonlands, and they'll tell you all of those things at the visitor center as well.
So we talk about the park passes and the time entry. A good thing about Canyonland is there's no park pass or time entry.
Yeah, you can just take off up that road, and there's no guard shack or gate or anywhere to pay an entry into the Canyonlands Park at all, at least not the portion that we were in. After we finished up at Canyonlands, we hit the road to Glenwood, Colorado. So we were headed back toward Oklahoma, and Colorado would be one of our last stops before we stopped off to visit our big kids in Texas. You'll see a couple of pictures in the photo gallery. There were some random sand dunes out by Cisco, Utah, and I thought they were kind of pretty. It's just funny how the landscape changes from red rocks to sand dunes to mountains. It's just kind of wild. These sand dunes are visible from I-70, so if you're driving from Utah to Colorado, you can see those along that route.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Highways and Hilltops. Don't forget to connect with us on social media and check out the photo gallery and video vault for each episode on our website. We'll throw those links in the show notes for you as well.
Yep. Be sure to tune in next week for the finale of our 2024 summer road trip recap as we meander through colorful Colorado. Even we were surprised where we end up. So, have a great week, friends. Until next time, we hope you get to go explore something fun this week.
See you next time.
Bye.